Hello, it's the Friday Talkie. New microphone. Yay. Just seeing how this works with video, trying to do them separately and then edit it all together. That'll be fun. Okay, first thing, this is not the return of the Friday Talkie. It's kind of a one-off just because I've got the time and I've got something to talk about. It's not going back to a weekly thing. Sorry about that. I know you'd like it to be that way, but it's not. Can't get my words out. What have I got to talk about then? Well, about a week ago, Sony, well, I don't know if it was Sony did it, but a whole load of retailers in the UK dropped the price of the PS4, the original, the big fat. It's not really that big, is it? Whoops. They dropped the price dramatically overnight. For about a day. They didn't announce they were going to do it, but Andrea, my wife, is an avid bargain hunter, and she got wind of this. She knew it was going to happen before time. So she went on various different websites of various different retailers and loaded up the page to buy, and come midnight, bam, price dropped, she hits buy. She actually wound up buying several PS4s dirt cheap, all of which family members and the like. But I got one. She gave me one. It's kind of early Christmas present. Yeah, so I've got a 1 terabyte PS4. It came with Lego Star Wars and the Star Wars film. What's the recent film? Can't memory brain not work. Yeah, I wonder about my memory. Anyway, and also it came from Argos, and Argos were doing a bundle deal with the PS4, which still seemed to be valid even with this price drop thing. So I got with it No Man's Sky. Before I talk about the games, I'm going to talk about what do I think of the PS4. Now I've got one, because loads of people, for ages, have been saying, oh, you must play blah or blah or blah on the PS4, and I'm like, I haven't got one. Mainly because I didn't have the money and they were expensive, and I didn't have the time. We'll talk a bit more about that shortly. But what do I think of it? I love the design. The original fat PS3 is a big, huge, clunky, shiny fingerprint hogging bastard. I like it when it's nice and polished and not covered in fingerprints. It's got an interesting style that I like, but it is really big, and that's kind of a bit problematic if you're limited for space. So the PS4 is certainly a lot more compact, and I do like the more matte sort of textured finish. It's nice. Power wise, obviously more powerful than the PS3, though not. It doesn't seem to be such a big leap from PS3 to PS4 as it was from PS1 to PS2 or from PS2 to PS3, but then I seem to recall them saying that every single time a new iteration of PlayStation came out, so maybe it's just that. And some games show off the capabilities more than others, like No Man's Sky, which was the first game I played. No, I lie. No, I don't lie. Anyway, playing No Man's Sky, I was thinking I'm pretty sure a PS3 could do this. Visually, it's just not all that. But then Drive Club, holy cow. Yeah. Anyway, so power-wise, yeah, whatever. Storage, 1 terabyte, I think is probably an absolute bare minimum you can get away with. I said this with the PS3. Back when the PS3 was wow, my voice. Excuse me. Wow, what's going on? I can't talk. Okay, we'll try again. Back when the PS3 was a new thing, and they were giving them away. They were selling them with the 60 gig hard drive, and I had one of those, and I think they maybe even had Did they have them with a smaller drive than that? Can't remember. Anyway, and I was saying that this is just ludicrously small. It's too small. You're going to fill it up in no time. And that's exactly what happened. My original PS3 now has a 500 gigabyte drive in it. So PS4 with a 500 gigabyte drive, you think, yeah, that's massive, because I certainly didn't manage to fill my PS3's 500 gig drive. But games on the PS4 are huge. I mean, massive. Many gig. I mean, an update, just an update, a minor update, is 17 or so gigabytes, and then you download. I don't know. I've seen the basic Battlefield 4, without all the add-on packs and stuff, is something like 36 gigabytes. That's mental. So yes, 500 gig drive is just not going to fly with someone who plays a lot of AAA games. The 1 terabyte is the absolute minimum. Plenty of people are saying to me, get the 2 gig drive and get it now. Yeah, I can't afford it. But anyway, so there's that. The thing that, if there's a thing that I don't like, or rather, if there's a thing I'm going to have to get used to, there are actually 2 things I'm going to have to get used to. The operating system, after being so used to the PS3 one and its nice, really organized cross-media bar, I just got used to how it worked. This new thing, it seems so random. It seems arbitrary. It just puts things on. It's not even a cross-media bar, is it? It's just a row of icons, and then you've got stuff under it. I like the stuff above it, or the options. They seem to stay in the same place, but the main thing, they seem to move around, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And it took me a while to figure out. I mean, you get used to it, but it just seems all a little bit random and disorganized for my liking. I'm being told you can put things into folders, and I need to investigate that. Because I like things organized and neat and tidy, and it just isn't, or it doesn't feel that way to me. I don't understand why they've gone that way, but it seems to, ever since Windows 8, and companies seem to like operating systems that fill the screen with squares, and like they want you to use the things they want you to use and do it their way rather than do it your own way and have things where you want. It seems to be a thing, and I don't like it. Give me control. It's my kit. I paid for it. I want full control. And that seems to be a little bit lacking just lately on a lot of things, PS4 included. But anyway, the thing I'm finding the most difficult to get to grips with is the control pad. The joypad. It's not the size. I mean, it's a little bit bigger. A lot of people complain that the PS3, PS2, PS1 pad, because they're all much of a muchness, say it was too small. I always got on fine with it. And there's the thing. I have been a PlayStation user, player, whatever, for donkey's years, and I've got used to the pad. It works. I'm trying to get closer to me, mic. It works for me. So all of a sudden they've changed it. The size, not so much of a problem. I still like the sticks. I can work with them. They've moved the 2 buttons, the menu and the start buttons, and they don't do the same things anymore. And I'm like, I find myself in a game and I don't know what button to press. What is the pause button? How do you pause? How do you bring up options? It's all is different. And I have to stop and really think about it and push buttons and experiment to try and make it do what I want it to do. And I don't like that. I don't like that one little bit. It's like you've had decades to get used to how a thing works, and then to change it, no. That's going to take me a while. Anyway, so what games have I got? What came with it, and what have I bought, and what have I got for free? First of all, I have signed up to PlayStation Plus. I never did that with the PS3 because, well, to play games online was free, and that's the only reason I've signed up to PlayStation Plus. I play online, and, well, if you want to do that now, you've got to pay, so I do. but I am taking advantage a bit of the free games, but only a bit. So, came with it. Lego Star Wars. I don't like it. I played it once and uninstalled it. Nice graphics. To me, it's a kid's game, and it's not. My initial thought was it's going to be some kind of action game, a fun, jolly kind of quirky action game. It's not really. It's a puzzle game. I mean, there is action in that you're shooting things and stuff, and you get blown to pieces and then put yourself back together. But it's just a puzzle game, and it's like you've got to do a thing to progress, and you've got to work out how to do the thing. And well, I just don't give a crap about that kind of thing. I don't do puzzles. I don't care for puzzles. Maybe I'm just thick, but I don't enjoy them. I reached a bit where R2-D2 is stuck under a tree, and I couldn't work out how to get him out. And I spent about 15 minutes, and Andrea was sitting there watching as well, and neither one of us could work out what to do. And I was just like, this isn't fun. I don't care about finding out how to get R2 out from under a tree. So, bollocks. And I turned it off and uninstalled it, and that's the end of that. I won't play it again. Freebie came with it, but it's still like full price. No Man's Sky. If I had no other games to play, I would spend a lot of time on it, but I do. My impression, and I played it for about 4 or 5 hours, it is Elite crossed with Minecraft. I haven't even got into space yet. I haven't bothered with that. I've just been prattling about on the first planet I arrived at, crafting and stuff. I've repaired my ship. I've got all of the elements and things I needed to repair it, and so I can fly it around. And I should give it some more time. I should go into space, but my impression is you go into space, you have fights, you shoot things, you go to other planets, you find other elements and things you need to build things and upgrade and progress and rinse and repeat. And I'm just like, I don't care for crafting in any game. I just don't. It doesn't interest me. Put this together with this, make this, and then you can do that. Don't care. Hunt around to find the things you need to put together to make the thing work. Don't care. And flying through space, going from planet to planet to progress and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. But I did this 30-something years ago when I played Elite. And then I did it again when I played Frontier Elite 2. And I'm kind of all done with that now. And I'm probably completely, or maybe completely missing the point. But first impressions matter, and that's my first impression. And so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And as I said, if I had no other games, I would probably play it a lot. But I do. And 2 of them are really, 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 really good. So I'm afraid No Man's Sky. Given that I have limited time available to play games, it's not going to get much of a look in. I mean, I get a couple of hours a day in between when I finish doing all the things that I'm doing in the daytime, and between Andrea getting home, I get a couple of hours where I can play games, and a couple of hours ain't a lot when you've got really good games. So I'm afraid No Man's Sky is just like, whatever, that can wait until maybe I retire. Next game I bought, I should have actually gone to like Cash Converters, because they got it for, no, it was Granger Games. Granger Games had got it for a tenner. I didn't think of that at the time. I bought it online as it's like PlayStation Plus members get it for 15 quid. So I got it for 15 quid, and that game is Drive Club, and I love it. I mean, I'm a fan of Gran Turismo, and that game, this, in terms of depth and structure, is lacking. Drive Club doesn't have the depth. What it has is the graphics, the physics, the speed, and the sense of chaos that you get when you're racing a bunch of cars down the road that you don't really know. I mean, I drive like a complete arsehole when I play racing games. And if I was playing online, which I'm not, I would get booted off the server because I just barged my way through. And my cars always look a complete bloody mess when I've finished the race. But whatever. Yeah, so it's probably going to be a stopgap until Gran Turismo, whatever they're calling it, comes out. At which point it then probably won't get a look in. Depends how good Gran Turismo is, because the graphics and physics and overall the fun you have in a race are incredible, and that might win out over complex and deep structure. I don't know yet. We'll see. It is it's pretty amazing. It does impress the hell out of me, and it's getting a lot of time. It's my time playing games on the PS4 at the moment is split between that and another game which I'll mention in a minute. Next game I got was it was a freebie for PlayStation Plus. It's a indie game, I believe, and it's called Journey, and it's just mesmerizing and gorgeous and dreamlike, and I imagine it's not very big. I haven't finished it yet, but I suspect I may be quite near the finish. And it's hard to describe it. I say I don't like puzzle games, but it's kind of a puzzle game. But they're very gentle puzzles, and they're very obvious what you're meant to do. It is just like free the funny little things from whatever they're trapped in, and all you doing that is not a complex thing. So, but it's the visual style and the atmosphere, and it's described as an emotional journey, and I suppose it is. It does. The scenes do generate a level of emotion, and there's a sense of desolation about the whole thing. It's like you're living in a post-apocalyptic world, and the apocalypse happened centuries ago, and I don't know. You're just going on a journey. I love it. It's beautiful. Next game I got, which I've only played it once, is a thing called Badland, and I've played other games like it, and I can't remember what they're called. But you've got a little character, and you've got to bobby along, like you move or the screen moves, and you've got to get through a sort of maze and traps and things, and pick up things and avoid things, and it's clever. I like it. It doesn't grab me enough that I play it a lot. It is probably something where if I've only got 10 minutes to play, I'll play that. Though really, if I've only got 10 minutes to play, I play something on my JXD instead. But whatever. Not my GPD. Get the name right. Yeah, but it's got some appeal. I like it. It's probably not something I'll spend a lot of time on, but there you are. I like it. Next game I got for a tenner from Granger Games. Star Wars Battlefront. Now, I love Star Wars. I have been into Star Wars since... Well, I was into it before I saw it, if you know what I mean. I was a kid. My parents wouldn't take me to see it. My dad was a cheap-ass bastard. So I read the comics and I read the book, and I kind of knew what happened in Star Wars before I'd ever seen the film. And the first Star Wars film I ever actually saw in the cinema as a teen was Return of the Jedi. It was much later before I saw the first two, but I was a fan. And I have been ever since. So, Star Wars, and I'm a fan of the Battlefield games. I've spent way too many hours, days, weeks. I should add up, probably couldn't, add up how many hours I've spent playing that game, or games. I've played a few of them. From Battlefield 2, I started on Battlefield 2, I played Battlefield 1943 was the next one I played, and then Battlefield 3, and then Battlefield 4 with all the add-ons for that on the PS3. Take the two, Star Wars and Battlefield, bung them together, and you've got Battlefront. And I love it, and I wish I had more time to play it, because it's gobsmacking. I mean, it just is Star Wars, and we're talking like original Star Wars. You're on Tatooine and Hoth and Alderaan, not Alderaan. What's the I can't remember names of things anymore. People, places, things, whatever. Anyway, you're on the, the forest world. Endor, that's it. And another place that I don't actually know, I don't recognize. It's like an Imperial base place. Don't know that one. And I think you might be on Jakku in one battle. Not sure. But anyway, I love it. It's amazing. It's graphically fantastic. The structure of it is fantastic. Offline play is a little bit... There's no storyline mode, but there are single-player modes that are... I played them first just to get the hang of the controls and stuff, and then moved online. And 40-player, my God. I can only do that now. But since getting the PS4, I realized with the massive downloads, Wi-Fi was not going to cut it. The Wi-Fi in this house is not very fast, about 14 megabits, because we've got it set on, I can't remember what the numbers are, but on G instead of N, because when we had it set on N, which is much faster, the connections just kept breaking from my tablet, from my phone, from my computer. It's just unreliable. So I put it on G, which is slower, but it's reliable. But you need speed when you've got massive downloads and 40-player battles, if you like. So I've run an Ethernet cable through from the kitchen into the living room, routing. That was fun. But yeah, so we've now got about 60 gigabits per second download speed, and I don't know what speed, just for like local connectivity or whatever, because it will run the remote play. I've hooked my PS3, no, I've hooked my PC up in the games room. That's hooked up via Ethernet through one of those plugs, whatever. It's not a Wi-Fi extender. Power line thing. You basically put a plug in the wall and then run a cable from that to your computer, and you got Ethernet connection. So we've got one of them to my PC, and then Ethernet connection from the router to the PS4 downstairs, and I can play the PS4 games on the PC in the games room. And it works probably about as well as it's going to work. I can run it at 720p. But I'm like, yeah, I'm just not going to do it. It loses so much in the compression and everything, and it does stutter, and it doesn't seem to matter whether I'm running it at 720p or 570 or whatever it is. It doesn't seem to matter. It occasionally stutters, and I'm just like, nah. The compression makes the graphics fuzzy. It's like playing a PS4 game on a PS3-ish. PS 2.5 maybe. So I'm just like, I can't be bothered with that. It's interesting and fun that it will work, but it's just when you've been playing on the PS4 and going wow at the graphics, and I mean PS4 on a 42-inch TV when you're just a couple of feet away from it, it's mind-blowingly good. And then to play it on a 32-inch lower resolution, a little bit fuzzy, you're just like, eh. Yeah. So it works, but I ain't really going to bother with that too much. Maybe, if I just can't play downstairs for whatever reason, say there are situations where there's a bunch of people down there talking about a load of stuff that I just don't give a crap about. I'll just go off somewhere else and do my own thing. Maybe then I'd use it, but more likely I'd just sit on my computer and chat on the internet or do something practical or useful. Who knows? Whatever. Yeah, I got moving on because I've completely strayed there. I got another game as well. One of this month's freebies on PlayStation Plus, and that is Resident Evil. It's like an HD remake of the original Resident Evil. It seems to have all the same voices, same everything, but it's all been improved. And I'm probably not going to keep it. I'm probably going to delete it because I played it a little bit and it was like, oh, nostalgia, I remember this. And I completed it back in the day. Granted, I used a walkthrough from a magazine. But, it was all the great things about that game that were great about that they were great at that time. The graphics were cool if you were new to the PS1, but the controls were clunky, the camera angles were awkward. The dogs made you jump as they break through the window, and all of those things, and they were great, and the horror as the zombies come and try and eat your face and stuff. But after a couple of decades, it's like, even with it in high definition, I had a go at it, and it was like, yeah, nostalgia, cool, I remember this. Meh, I can't be bothered to play it, because the things that were bad about the original override what was good about it. We've moved on. Graphics are better, and granted, the graphics on this game are way better than the original, but the gameplay is much the same. And I'm just like, I don't care about this. I can't be bothered. It was fun back then, but we've moved on, and there are too many other things that are just, they play better and are far more fun to me, and given that time is limited, I'm not going to commit time to playing that. So given that I'm not going to play it, it's not going to stay on the hard drive, because hard drive space is at a premium just as much as time is. And I am finding that with the PlayStation Plus games that they give away. Granted, I've not been paying close attention, but whenever I've looked, there's not many things that I think, yeah, I've got to have that. They seem to be the things that you wouldn't buy at full price. Be they I don't know if any of them are AAA games, but you know, full price games, maybe £30. Would you pay £30 for any of these? I don't think I would. So, yeah, that's not going to stay. Pity, but yeah. I've got to stop for a bit now, because there's a dog downstairs barking, and he's just being a knob. I'll be back. Okay, back again. Video response to Luke. I was going to say Luke Morstem, but I'm still thinking back again. Luke here. No, video response to Lawn Boy's post, Dave, he did a video recently asking, do some people take YouTube too seriously? And he's talking about competitiveness, I think, and how some people who've been making videos for quite a while get upset when they see another YouTuber, start making videos and have sudden rapid success in a short space of time, and like surpass them in terms of views and subscribers. And you'll see channels, they get upset about that. You know, I've been doing this for years, and this whippersnapper pipsqueak comes along, and all of a sudden they're huge, and that's just not right and not fair, and they must be cheating or whatever, and they do them down and slag them off and try and explain how crap they are and they shouldn't be as successful as they are. It happens. I've actually not seen that happen recently. I generally don't pay attention to the drama on YouTube at all these days. I used to, and there's a thing. I have seen this happen, though it was in the past. It happened to me quite a few years ago. I got trolled by a couple of people, and that they would just slag me off and everything because I was more. Well, there were various different reasons for why that happened, but you know, there was this. They would be saying I shouldn't be as popular as I am, or have as many subscribers as I have, or whatever, because I'm crap, and I just, whatever their argument was. And for a while, I fought back, if you like. I made video responses explaining why everything they said was wrong. And it was actually a mistake for me to do that. I found out quite rapidly that I lost subscribers, and it wasn't because people were believing what these others were saying. It was because no one watches YouTube for the negativity, or most people don't. Some maybe they like the drama, but largely if you're a channel with a specific purpose and that purpose is not drama, if you introduce drama or respond to it, you will lose subscribers. And that's what happened. And I kind of learned, people are going to talk shit about you. Let them get on with it. Ignore, don't respond in any way. It's probably harder, I suppose, if the person who's talking rubbish has a big audience. I was never unfortunate enough for that to happen, thankfully. But yeah, I can sort of see it from the other side of the whatever you see it from the other side of, in that there were a number of channels who started up around the same time as me. Actually, there were a lot of channels that started up around the same time as me. Some are still going. Some fell by the wayside. Some I'm more successful than in terms of subscriber count. Some, there are about 3 or 4 that I can think of that started out around the same time as me, who just had huge success, or have had huge success since then. It's like I started out ahead of them and then they just like whoosh off into the distance. Now they're YouTubing. They're not YouTubing megastars, but they're making a living doing it. And how did I feel about that when it initially happened? At first I was kind of like, I would see their subscriber count surpass mine by 1,000 or a couple of thousand, and I'd be like, what's going on here? We started at the same time and all of a sudden they're doing way better than me. Why is that? And I kind of puzzled over it. Not jealous, envious, but initially puzzled. And now they're like massively just, huge, and absolute jealous, not remotely. I just look at it and think, cool, good for them. Wish, there is the envy. Wish I was that successful, absolutely. But here's the thing, I kind of spent the time figuring it out, and I suppose where people get upset is they don't understand why it happens. Why is one channel more successful than another? Because the first thing that goes through your head is, have they paid someone? Have they paid for a service? Is there some trick or something gimmick that I haven't figured out that they're doing? Are they cheating? That ain't it. I understand that people will think that. I never thought anyone was cheating. I did think, is there a service? Is there a gimmick? That's not it. There are multi-channel networks which may or may not help. I am very suspicious of them. I've never signed up to one, and I don't expect I ever will. They might help. The people who I have in mind spoke about signing up to these networks way back when and said that they were very helpful and useful and whatnot. Whether that was a factor in their success, I don't know. But I don't want anything to do with networks. What it comes down to is, I think, 2 things. Part of it you have control over and part of it you don't. One is personality. You have no control over that whatsoever. My character, my personality appeals to a certain sector of the retro gaming community, if you like. I have the ability to go blah, 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 and talk a load of stuff off the top of my head, unscripted, and perhaps be a little bit informative and a little bit amusing. And that seems to appeal to men of about the 30-ish, 30-plus age group. Some a bit more, some a bit less. But it's a pretty tight, close bundle of people in terms of demographic. These very successful channels appeal to a much wider demographic. It's like all age groups, men and women, and that takes a very specific kind of personality that I don't have. And it's not a fault. It's just how it is. Some people have a more appealing personality. That is something you have no control over. There are things that you can have control over. Part of it is how much time and effort and money are you prepared to put into making your videos. I know that I could be more successful if all of my videos were like this. If I did a Friday talkie every day of the week or every other day, well, that would mean there were an awful lot more Fridays in the week, which would probably be cool if it meant there were a lot more Saturdays and Sundays. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, if I did talkie type videos a lot more, these are my most popular videos. But I don't, because I ran out of things to say. You know, it's like I talked about my hobby for years, and when your hobby is just the one thing, retro gaming, it reaches a point where you've said everything you've got to say. You use up all your knowledge, if you like, or you've said everything that's on your mind, and that's it. It's a finite. My memory has a finite store of information on the subject. So unless something new comes along that I have something to talk about, I can't do this every week, much less every day. I could have more success if I did more system reviews, because they're popular. But system reviews are hard work. And I choose largely to either talk about the more obscure, rarer retro stuff that not everyone has got and knows about and has heard of, because I'm not going to talk about the Commodore 64 or the Sinclair Spectrum in terms of a hardware review, because pretty much everyone, or a lot of people at least, will know more than me. I'm not a big fan of either of those systems, so I can't even be enthusiastic if I did the research. You know, I'd have to fake it, and that's the one thing I just won't do. It's got to be genuine. If I'm not passionate about something, I don't want to talk about it. And I'm not passionate about the Commodore 64 or the Sinclair Spectrum or the Xbox or any of the many systems I've got in my collection that I haven't done a review of. You know, it's either common as muck and everyone knows about it and probably knows more than me, or I just don't feel like it. I do like doing reviews of things like the GPD XD and the JXD S78000 whatever be, stuff like that. But I can only review them when I've got one, like bought one or whatever, and I don't get hold of those very often. So, you know, if any distributors or manufacturers would like to give me something like that to review, do feel free to get in touch. Yeah, not entirely serious there, but maybe I am. But you know, if I did more system reviews, yes, I would have more success. But I don't. Practical reasons largely, and having things to be passionate about. So what do? I do gameplay videos, and I do them badly. And that's a thing that only appeals to a very small segment of the wider audience. The quality is bad. I accept that it's bad. I have the hardware. So, you know, I've got a capture device. I could make the image quality better, but it's a lot more work, and that means a lot more time. And I like to record in batches, like a dozen or 2 dozen videos in a day, and just save them up and then release them over time. And you can't do that if you're doing a capture device for the video footage and then recording the audio separately, and it's a lot of messing around. And I can't be bothered with it. So I accept that I'm going to get fewer views because of that. That's just how it is. So, yeah, you're always going to get channels that do more, succeed more, get more subscribers more rapidly. Sometimes they're just trying harder. They're putting in the time and effort. You can't complain about that. It's not that it's not fair. It's that they're putting in more effort. You know, the people who say, "Oh, but I should be doing as well as them." Are you putting in the effort? And then there's the thing you can't control, which is personality. A thing is positivity. You will almost always find that those people who are successful are positive. So I mean, that's a thing you can have a bit of control over. But yeah, there is another aspect, and I don't think it's something Dave covered, about taking it too seriously. I probably sometimes take myself too seriously when it comes to YouTube. And what do I mean by that? Criticism and how I handle it. I had a couple of cases recently where there was criticism of my videos from a couple of commenters, and one I let go and one I didn't, and I kind of pondered what was the difference. Why did I go to I picked one of them apart completely to the point that they said they were never going to comment on another video again, and another one I was just like, yeah, okay, some people like my stuff and some people don't. That's just how it did. That's just how it is. And their response was, I can respect your simple logic. I don't know if maybe they were insulting me by saying that I'm simple, but it doesn't matter. But I sat back after all of this and pondered, why is it I was able to let one go while the other one I had to pick them apart. And it came down to what it was they were criticizing. The first one, the one I let it go, they were disagreeing with my opinion. I had said a load of things. I'd done a system review actually about the GPD XD, and they were critical because I didn't know what GPD stood for, and they didn't like my tone of voice, thought it was critical and not praising the thing enough, and generally thought I was doing GPD down. I disagree with them. I think all of that is absolute rubbish, but it's opinion, and they're entitled to it. You know, if they think I was not praising the thing enough, or generally whatever, fine. I'd have it's something. Every so often I'll have an argument with someone in comments, and I'll say, you just can't handle criticism. You want everyone to agree with you. Not true. If I'm factually in error and someone is correcting me, I'm fine with that. I welcome it. If someone has an opinion that differs from mine and they completely disagree with what I think about a thing, I'm fine with that, because opinion is what it is. It's just what you think about something. It's not empirical. There is no objective truth. There is no ultimate truth. If you like a thing, someone else is going to dislike it. That's just how it is. So you let them say what they like and move on. It doesn't matter. What I get the arse about is when people are critical of my methodology when it comes to making the video itself. It's like, I've been doing this for a long time. I know the limitations of my videos. I know what's good and what isn't in terms of quality and production values. I know all of this, and it's not up for discussion. It's not, no one is going to say you shouldn't do that, you should do this. It's like, no, that's not your business. These are my videos. This is my creative process. I present this to my audience, and they can either watch it or they can't, and that's it. You don't get a say. And anyone who tries will get slapped down. And that's what that was. And yeah, maybe that's taking myself too seriously. Maybe I'm just a little bit too precious about my content and how I work. It might be true, but you know, it's like when you've been doing this as long as I have, you just reach a point where you don't want to have to hear it. You know, I've been told countless times, use a capture card, and I'm like, yeah, again, this, because I hadn't thought of that. I've only been doing it for donkeys. It gets on your nerves. So it's like, most of you know it, but when someone new comes along and they're like that, I'm like, yeah, piss off. It happens. And maybe that is taking myself too seriously. I don't know, and in the end, I don't care. This is me, warts and all. So that is that. That's my thoughts. Some people take it too seriously in one way, some people take it too seriously in another. I probably fall into one of those categories. whatever. Moving on. Yes, different subject. My education, shall we say. Some of you maybe, will know that I have been doing a degree course. Why am I talking in past tense? I have been for the last 18 months or so studying, 18 months to do the first year, effectively, of a degree. It was an open university, open degree. I was studying design and IT. And for the first year, I passed both modules. I got distinctions in both modules. My scores were they were phenomenal. But I've dropped it. I have dropped out of that course. Why? Well, it all comes down to what I picked for my second year modules. One of them was another design module. Fine. Had no concerns about that. The other was Java programming. I had picked 2 modules of Java programming. And in the time between my first year and second year, I decided I am going to teach myself as best as I can Java to get a head start, and because the second module overlapped with the first module, and I didn't know if I was going to need all of the knowledge from the first module to do the second module, but since I would still be doing the first when the second one started, there might be a gap in my knowledge. So I decided I don't have the time to wait a year to start the second one, so I'll teach myself. And I got myself a load of Java books, 3 different books, and I worked all the way through one and had got about 2/3 of the way through the second book, and that was getting harder and harder. And then I hit a point where I knew I could not progress. It was bashing my head against a brick wall. And the thing that did my head in, this won't mean anything to most of you, it was passing off values between, was it between objects or between methods? I get confused about that, but you'd have a value and it would pass from one variable to another variable to another, but the variables had different names, and they'd get passed automatically between them, and it was trying to keep track of this and make sense of it when things had different names, but it passed from there to there to there, and I could not do it. It didn't make logical sense because the names were different, but worse than that, I couldn't track it. I don't know if it's down to a particular thing. I have a neurological condition which may not be a factor, but in finding out about that, I also discovered through testing that I have a limited and below average working memory. It's like you can have a computer that's got a super mega fast CPU, real powerful brute force, but if you don't give it enough cache, it's got a bottleneck. Well, that's what I've got. I don't have enough cache. I might have huge RAM, but there's a lack of cache. Basically, I hit a brick wall. I couldn't track because I couldn't hold things in memory. It just... I'd sit there and just look at it and just like, yeah. And I grappled with this just one page of text and code for several days. And I read it in the first book, and I looked up the same topic in another book, and then I looked it up online trying to make sense of it. And even when I understood the concept, it's like understanding the structure of a language. You understand the grammar, you understand the syntax. Like, say, learning French. You might understand the structure of the language and everything about how it works. But when you're faced with a page of French in a book in front of you and you've got to understand it, I couldn't. I couldn't do it, and I just realized at that point, I haven't started the module yet. The money hasn't changed hands. The course hasn't started. If I do this course, I'm going to fail. And that's a lot of money out of the window, where I could find something else to do. Use that money, do a different course. So I pulled out. I withdrew. Initially I was my initial thought was, I'm going to stick with this, I'm going to do the course, and I'll either pass or I'll fail. And I had a conversation with Andrea, because she could see I was actually I was upset. It was doing my head in, I was pulling my hair out. She said that the look on my face, it was like someone had died. And she said, well, what would you rather do? Clearly this isn't right for you. What would you have rather done? And I said, well, the course I would have really, really liked to have done wasn't available on the OU anyway, and that was photography. And she was like, and went off to her computer and came back to me about 10 minutes later and said, have a look at this. And it's a degree course with a different college, photography. And I mean, I was just like, it didn't take much convincing. Initially I was like, no, I'm committed to this IT and design, I can't leave it now, blah blah. But she was like, look, you've got an opportunity, you're not going to get another one. If you carry on with that and fail, that's that, end of story. I didn't take much convincing. I withdrew from the OU course. I'm waiting for the funding business to clear from the OU so I can get on with the photography thing. And it's just a degree in photography, but it also has video. It's got modules in video recording and processing and editing and blah as well. So kind of perfect for me, actually. I mean, I've been into photography for years. The reason I didn't do it in the first place was the Open University didn't have a degree course in it, and I just couldn't handle getting through college to do the what was it? It was I needed an access course. I didn't have the qualifications necessary to go straight through to a normal conventional university. I couldn't handle the hoops you had to jump through, and I went to college and I did an access course and I dropped out because I just couldn't. I can't even explain. Well, I could explain, but I'd have to give you a load of information that I don't want to give you. But anyway, so it was like online courses were pretty much the only option open to me, and I was completely unaware of this course. But Andrea found it. It's like, yes, it's kind of my dream thing. I love photography. I'm good at it. I'll leave a link to you down there, actually. My Flickr account, you can see some of my photos there. And that's like, never done a course in my life. I just like to think I have an eye for a good picture. And I know a thing or two about video recording and whatnot, and how to do it badly mainly. But to be able to do that in a course, it's like I think going to be like taking a course in a language that I'm already fluent in. I suppose, like the design course, there will be an exercise in speaking bullshit. There certainly was in the design course. So much of it just felt like primary school level, building things out of cardboard and whatnot, and really simplistic stuff that didn't seem like learning at all, but then combining it with a whole load of bullshit to explain your motivation and blah blah blah. I expect there will be an element of that kind of bullshit. Certainly the technical aspects, I expect to learn a lot. I expect I will learn to speak a new brand of bullshit as well. But that's just one of the hoops you have to jump to, and one I'm perfectly happy to do because I want to do it. It might sound crazy. I know I spoke about it on Twitter and Facebook, and some people were like, whoa, you were doing well on the IT, and there's careers in that, and blah, think you're mad. And some were like, yeah, good move. I think it's a good move. I think it's the right move. I think it's going to be good for me. Certainly good for my mental health, because I was getting depressed with the programming. It was doing my head in. And I mean, when you think about it, if you've got a thing that you really aren't enjoying and is making you miserable, the idea of committing yourself to that and lots of money with the aim of getting a career in that field when it's already making you miserable, that makes no sense whatsoever. So yeah, I think I've made the right move. That's that. Okay. True to original Friday Talkie format. I have a couple of shout-outs. Now I've just got to find I've got to find them. How do you find all the channels you subscribe to anymore? They've kind of messed it all up, so you can't see. I don't know how to find the list anymore, because one of them has a slightly quirky and large channel name, and I will find it. I'm scrolling here. I'll edit this. Okay, here we go. First shout out is for, you'll understand why I couldn't remember this off the top of my head. I only did it for the Timex calculator watch. That's the name of the channel. This is a chap who does gameplay reviews of Cascade Cassette 50 compilations. If you're of a certain age, you'll be familiar with these. They were cassette compilations. You had 50 games on a tape. It's for the old 8-bit computers. He's got them. The one I'm looking at here is for the Amstrad. I know he's got them for other systems like the VIC-20 and I don't know, Spectrum, Commodore 64, whatever. These games were shockingly rubbish, appalling, quite often written in BASIC. I did some videos way back of VIC-20 games on the VIC-20 compilation. These are funny. He's got a good sense of humour while he's playing them, but he's very you know the style I like by now. No bullshit. It's just this is what it is, and he plays these games and they're terrible. They are awful. And it's worth watching as well as for the presentation, the way he does them, for his style. They're worth watching just for God how bad these games are. And if you're a youngster, if you were born in the PlayStation era and have no concept of what the older stuff was like, the very early years, the stuff that I grew up with, these are worth watching. You play a bad game today on a modern console, and it will be flawed, it will be imperfect, it will maybe lack depth or lack something, or maybe a bit of collision detection will be a bit wayward or something, but really it's still an accomplished piece of software. These games on the Cascade 50 compilations, they were programmed by young teenage boys who were maybe given a tenner or 50 quid or something by this software house. They're bedroom coders. They're not accomplished bedroom coders. They're just teens who are programming in BASIC. And they gave their games to this publisher who crammed them all onto a cassette, 50 at a time, and flogged it off and gave away a Sinclair calculator watch with it, which was probably worth an awful lot more than the software on the tape, or at least it was worth having. You didn't want to play the games, you just wanted the watch. And that's what the I only did it for the Timex calculator watch is all about. And that's where the name comes from. Have a look. It's good, it's fun, and it's educational. Link down there. The other channel that I want to shout out is a guy called Villordsutch, who currently he's doing videos of ZX81 games, and he's coming up with some really impressive games. Now the ZX81, for those who don't know, it's a very early 8-bit computer by Sinclair. It's black and white, it's got no audio, it didn't out of the box have high resolution graphics. I mean, we're talking way chunky graphics. The blocks on Tetris, yeah, those would be the standard block sizes on the ZX81, but some very clever programmers managed to, using machine code, alter the standard character set. So things that were like letters or whatever, that they've just redefined them and made what they call pseudo high res. And Villordsutch is getting hold of a load of these and making videos of them. And some games that threw a hack on the RAM card, not card, RAM pack, 16K RAM pack. If that was hacked, minor modification, you're able to do high-res graphics, and he's got games like that, and just some of the best standard ZX81 games. He's done some Spectrum games as well, if I remember rightly. So fascinating to see how good the ZX81 could be, and you'll get a taste of that in these videos. Also, his presentational style I really like. His voice and his way of speaking is very familiar. For a while I thought Harry Yak. There are hints of Harry Yak, and there are hints of even Gaming Mill, and I think it's the accent as much as anything, but it's just very familiar. The tone, the pacing, the humour. Great. I really like what he's doing, both in terms of presentation and content, and I highly recommend him, as I highly recommend the other channel that I just mentioned with the long name that I've forgotten already. Because do you remember what I said about working memory? Yeah, that is my 2 shoutouts. Links below to both of them. I used to do video and point the camera at the screen to show you what their channels were like, but I don't do that anymore because YouTube can be an arse. So yeah, do check those out. If you like them, hit subscribe. That is it for today and for a while. I mean, there are more gameplay videos that will be coming. I've recorded them already. I batch recorded PC Engine because I've got a I'm looking at one now. I'm looking at Mamemeister's little screen icon. What's it there? Mamemeister looks at the TurboGrafx 16 Everdrive. I've got one of those and it's fantastic, and if you want to know more about them, go watch Mamemeister's video. I was going to make a system review, or it's not really a system, I was going to do a review of it, but a couple of people have done them recently and I would just be repeating what they're saying. And my battery's about to run out, so I've got to shut up. Yeah, PC Engine, Amiga, Atari Lynx, and I've forgotten what the other thing I'm doing is. Spectrum. Yeah, okay. Thank you for watching.
Right, hit the subscribe button or I'm getting naked on camera. Go on, do it. Right, you asked for it. Ah, you asked for it. Ha, 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 oh.